All right, what's up, party people? Let me get the recording started. Hold on, let me probably just go ahead and um, delete the last episode's recording off this board, and then I'll start the recording, and then we will proceed with the Liberty Talk.
The Constitution isn't just a document. It's a blueprint for freedom. We're breaking down politics at every level, exposing government overreach, and going where the mainstream media surely won't. Join us in defending individual rights against the bureaucratic tide. You're listening to the Missouri Liberty Report.
All right, folks, we are back with another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report after a much-needed week's vacation. We're back and ready to rock and roll on a lot, well, pretty much all Missouri topics tonight. I mean, it is the Missouri Liberty Report, by the way, in case you forgot the name. Sometimes I feel like we forget and we just go off on national issues the whole time. Like, the name Missouri is in the title. Maybe we should be a little more even Stevens. So we got a lot of different things we want to go through tonight. But I want to hit first on this whole thing in Festus because Jeffco Patriot Radio has been putting out things. I didn't really get a chance to dig in, but there was something they had posted the other day about unethical behavior by the current board. There was an email that got sent out. And I don't know if it was the mayor or the city attorney was telling the others how to vote on a topic. And so these so-called real Republicans, they're out there and they're saying, see, you shouldn't have sent those other people packing. It seems like any fallout from this data center thing, they just want to push it at the citizens of Festus and treat them like they're big piles of crap. So again, former Missouri House Speaker Tim Jim Jones is at it, and some of his other cohorts on this show. But let me pull up a couple of these clips real quick because they're really upset that this data center thing is not working per se in Festus right now. So let me play this one first, and then I'll play the second one next. So I don't know how loud this audio is going to be, so please forgive me if it decides to play.
Was on the cusp of benefiting from all the good things that from this. They were going to get the negative, the possible negative, but they were also going to get all the benefits, and they screwed around. To the point where there is now this credible rumor that CRG might be like, we're done with you. We're done with all the hoopla. We're going to go somewhere else. And without even having to move. Move. And this is what's really cool is, again, there's this big conversation about whether or not cities and municipalities, how they can or can't annex things, right? And now you've got what would have been the biggest industry in Festus saying, we don't want to be a part of you anymore.
Right.
That's incredible.
It really is. And it's one of those things that, if you mess around for too long, the answer is eventually going to be no, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to lose that. And that seems like what's going on in Festus right now. The city could have an opportunity of growth, a broadened tax base and all the things, but they're messing around too much. And it sounds like it's going to be de-annexed. So
yeah, capital is always going to go where it can get the most bang for its buck, right? And if you say, and it's never going to go somewhere it's not wanted, right? Exactly. It's like water. It's going to take the path of least resistance. You've got a city that.
All right, so there's that one. Let me get back to this other one. This is a much shorter clip, but let me play this one real quick too, because this is more of them seemingly crying about the situation. Once it decides to spin up here.
That was on the cusp of benefiting from all the good.
You know what? Never mind, because that's the same freaking clip. I thought I had another one from Tim Jim Jones, but I guess I didn't save it. There was also some let me get that straightened out there, Billy. There were also some other clips where they're like, yeah, it's really tired of people being really selective with property rights. And, essentially making fun of all the Festus, or taking a jab at the people of Festus for saying they didn't want the data center, and then, and again, removing 3 people from office right after the fact. That whole thing went down. And it's just like, you guys are broadcasting out of Jefferson County, and then you're also attacking a people in a city that is in Jefferson County. So how are you planning on winning these people over if you're making oh so subtle jabs at them about their beliefs and how they voted and how they reacted to this whole thing? Brandon, your thoughts? This is just, why it's kind of funny to watch. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm not judging them for saying something like, even if it's not popular, like I'm not going to hold something against them for saying that, even if it's not popular. But when you're talking about this particular data center, it was the fact that it was clouded in secrecy, and that all of the other data centers that seem to be getting put in come with tax abatements. They come with like a 10 or 15 year moratorium on no taxes for like the companies that seem to be moving in. And they talk about the job creation. And like, again, these guys on this show, they were talking about the benefits. Well, what are the benefits? Sure, some out of state construction workers might come in and get a few months' work or a year's work building the thing, but then it only takes a handful of people to run it. It's just a giant computer that's funneling water to cool itself. And so you got a few maintenance technicians, a few guys in charge, but other than that, you're not really looking at a lot of sustainable jobs. So you've got 10 or 15 years where it's not bringing in any tax revenue. It's only created a handful of jobs. It could potentially put a strain on the water supply, the power supply. You know what they'll say that, yeah, these companies, these data centers, they're paying for their own electricity. They're not causing the rates to go up. But if the electric company has to build a whole new facility to run the power, the taxpayers are on the hook for the building that second facility. So yeah, they're not paying, they might be paying their own fair share for electricity, but they've caused the power company to have to double the amount of power they produce, and the infrastructure for that tax goes to the infrastructure to build that gets put on the people who live in that power district, who are most likely under a monopoly from the power company. And so yeah, look, I think if you're going to lay it out and just start, like you said, basically trashing the people of Festus, you better have like a real laid out argument. Like, it better be like, these are the specific things that they're missing. They could have the best teachers in the state, the best cops in the state, the fastest ambulance and 911 service in the state. Like, they could have all of these things. And because of the new water filtration system, they're going to put their own, they're putting their own electric panels or solar panels on the roof. So there's no, problems with the community. But that's not what they're doing. They're like but my benefits. It's like, okay, lay out the argument then. Don't just, like you said, don't be like talking about how the people of Festus blew this opportunity. The people who want to build this data center did absolutely nothing to win over the case. If that were true, then I bet the people of Festus wouldn't have voted out an entire city council and tried to recall the rest of it if they would have made a sound, presentable case to the people.
Yeah, it's funny because this CRG group is like, that's all you ever heard about. You didn't know who they were building it for. You just knew the name of the company that was building the data center. And so what's really disappointing to me, it doesn't surprise me, it's just disappointing, is the fact that these folks are like, we have, let me add to this. It also makes me leery. It's disappointing, and it makes me leery when these Republicans like Tim Jones are out there saying we have to beat China to the punch. We have to beat China in the AI race. Like, dude, China doesn't scare me. I know you guys have been trying forever to get China to scare the bejesus out of me. It's not working. I'm not scared of China. What I'm scared of is an ever-growing, ever gigantic surveillance state that you seem to be kind of behind when you're pushing this, because they don't say this is, again, they don't line out what the benefits to the town will be. They also don't lay out the benefits of what it would be for society. They just say, we need to get this done. We need to beat China. Beat China to what? A better social credit score system, a better surveillance state. You're not laying any of that out. You're just pimping yourself out for data centers. And it's like, it's not a good look. And again, if you're going to insult the people in a in kind of a subdued way, I hope your listener count just plummets. I hope you lose your show in like another 3 months because no one's tuning into you because you're treating everybody like there's some kind of weird leftist because they're not backing your point of view. And that crap's getting really old. I know Brandon's sick of it. I'm sick of it. A lot of us others that just want more liberty are sick of it. Also, so I posted a clip when Jake Jackson was on the show about the flock cameras, and I want to touch on this briefly. Because a lot of people that's been a very popular clip as far as I'm concerned, and anything that I posted, it's like 6-7 times the best amount of view counts I've got. So for me, it's viral. For people that are really popular on the internet, it's not anywhere close. But anyway, I do get a few comments are like, do you carry around a smartphone? Yes, dude, I know that my smartphone is a spying device. And my smartphone, if the GPS is on, they can track me. I get that. That doesn't mean that I don't want them, that I should be okay with them adding all the rest of this stuff because my phone, because you know what you can do with your phone? You can buy a bag and you can drop the phone into the bag and seal it, and it blocks all signals altogether. Now, you can't receive a call or a text, but it will completely block out your signal. I can't do that with flock cameras. I can't do that with everything else. If they can track my plate as I travel, how would I not let people know where I was going? So yes, I get it. This thing is a spying device, and they sell your information to these big companies and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean I want the surveillance state to get bigger. It's like, oh, well, you don't want flock cameras, but you're carrying around a smartphone. Yeah, jackass. So are about 95% of the rest of the country. Doesn't mean we want to be spied on even more. Those kind of comments really irritate me. I don't know how you feel about it, Brandon, but they kind of tick me off a little bit.
Well, with the cell phone, you have a choice. Like if you wanted to go get a flip phone that didn't have, that didn't have GPS tracking, that didn't have any of those features, that's your choice. And so you kind of do sign up for it. And like, again, it's not the same thing because like Google makes you sign their agreement. And then like when you get an Alexa, you're signing all of these agreements. And I know they're hundreds of pages and they're legally worded, not for the layman. I understand that. But that's still an agreement that you're making with a private company. These flock cameras are the government. It's the government tracking all of your data and pushing it around. So like, and we did not consent to that. And so like, yeah, sure. I have a smartphone too. I like sometimes forget to unplug my web camera for like an hour after we're done recording. Oh, like, yeah, but those are my choices. This flock camera stuff is not my choice. So yeah, like you can actually be upset because you didn't consent to these flock cameras. And I saw a video of a guy who lives in Florida, he lives in Florida, and one of these flock cameras, I guess someone may have been driving his car, but he got sent a ticket for a flock camera or a traffic camera that had like took a picture of his driver's license for speeding or a right turn or something. And he was in Alabama at the time. Like he wasn't even in the state of Florida at the time the ticket was issued. And so like, it's not, there are lots of different examples. There was one lady who spoke out, I believe, at an O'Fallon city council meeting about how the flock cameras had misidentified her boyfriend, and the police had showed up to their house with a warrant, even though the flock camera had misidentified the car. And so there's not like one example. There's like tons of examples of these flock cameras just getting it wrong, or like the technology that comes along with these cameras is unconstitutional. And so, yeah, you can carry around a cell phone and still be mad about a flock camera. Yes.
Yeah. Also, there's been several like instances or examples that you can find online where police officers have used them to track their girlfriends or people they don't like. It's happened a boatload of times. It's not like one or two times. There's multiple examples of chiefs of police or sheriff's deputies or somebody abusing these things. So yeah, so when you put that kind of power in the hands of the government, and then I'm supposed to be like, well, I know they'll be responsible. And like, I'm supposed to act that naive, like, oh, it's cool. Like, I don't live in that world. I don't live in that plane of existence. I do not trust my government. They have not shown themselves to be trustworthy in a very long time, the whole time I've been alive, right? 53 years. I don't think I've ever had a thought where like, I think I can really start to back off on my distrust now. I think I'm getting there. No, it's not happening. They're not making me feel safe and free and all that. So it's just like, I don't know. And I forgot, I sent you that other article from St. Charles. Also, I want to add one other thought before I go to this article, because I kind of heard somebody talking, people talk about the all the people from around the world coming to the U.S. and saying how friendly people in the U.S. are. I guess we get a bad rap as we're all angry and we shoot each other nonstop. And the people are trying like really good barbecue and all this other food, and they're just like fall in love. Like, see, we're not so bad. And we are still one of the freest countries in the world. But here's the thing. When you think about that, as much as they are encroaching on our lives more and more every day, and they seemingly have some very nefarious plans in the works, we still have to get away from this like the Republicans do, right? And the Democrats, but Republicans, because they like to proclaim to be the party of freedom and smaller government and less spending and all the other lies they tell you. Man, we really got it. When you sit and think about flock cameras, you think about everything else they're doing. Yeah, it's like, yeah, we are the freest country in the world, pretty much still to this day. And because you can look around the world and go, God, they got it really bad. We don't have it that bad. But you need to get out of this of being so comfortable. Again, we've talked about this several times on the show. We have it too easy sometimes. And that makes it makes people less attentive to what's going on around them. So when we're talking about the flock cameras, we're talking this data centers, we're talking about surveillance state. Yes, you still do live in one of the freest countries in the world and one of the most prosperous countries in the world. Please don't think that will ever just go 180 and go the other direction. More tyrannical. We're flat broke because of our debt and our spending and our horrible foreign policy and all that. Please don't think that these things aren't going to happen. Please stay attentive. Pay attention to what your government's doing. And again, you don't even have to look in Washington, D.C. You can look at Festus. You can look at St. Louis. You can look at Kansas City. You can look at a lot of cities and city councils and county executives and all this other governor, legislative body, and see plenty of, you could call it corruption. You could just call it that they're bought and paid and they don't care about you and they're more worried about keeping the lobbyists happy. There's a myriad of ways you can look at it. And we're coming up on the 4th of July and everybody's going to be celebrating fireworks and, eating 15 pounds of hamburgers and hot dogs or whatever, which I'm totally down with, by the way. And you'll proclaim freedom. Don't get so wrapped up in the patriotism that you forget where we were and the direction we're going, and then not figuring out until it's too late. So yes, you can make fun of me because I'm been out of shape about flock cameras, but I carry around an iPhone. You can, yeah, cool. I hope that doesn't mean you're just okay with everything because they're already spying on you. I really hope that's not what that means, because that's scary. But let me pull up this very short article. I just found this today. I I don't remember where I was looking at, but this popped up. Might have been on Facebook. So the article, this is from News Channel 4 out of St. Louis. And it was posted today at about 8 o'clock this morning. New bill could bring St. Charles into regional real-time crime center network. So it says St. Charles, Missouri, a new bill being introduced in St. Charles could bring the city into a regional crime-fighting network that allows police departments across St. Charles County to share data and costs. The proposal would allow St. Charles to join the Real-Time Information Center based in O'Fallon, a system officials say is already helping improve public safety through real-time data sharing. First Alert 4 previously toured the center where officials demonstrated how technology works and how information is shared among participating agencies. According to officials, the system uses more than 100, here we go, folks, 100 license plate readers positioned across St. Charles County. The camera can alert law enforcement when they detect vehicles tied to active investigation, including stolen vehicles, felony warrants, or missing people. If approved, St. Charles would join several other St. Charles County police departments already participating in the network, including O'Fallon, Cottleville, Lake St. Louis, St. Peters, that's the Sunflower Tyranny City, if you've forgotten, and Wentzville. The bill is being introduced by the St. Charles City Council and still must go through the legislative process before any changes take effect. First Alert 4 will continue to follow the proposal. Listen, what was that movie back in the day? It was like a Tom Cruise movie where it was like pre-crime. Like it was so advanced that he could tell you were going to commit a crime before you did it, and they would just come and arrest you. I can't remember the name of the movie. So they're gonna use the examples of car thefts, missing persons, whatever. They're gonna use this as an example or as examples of why this is so good. Again, don't forget many years ago, or not so many years ago, our government told us they were not like collecting all the information through our emails, phone calls, and text messages until a very brave soul said, yeah, they are. And blew the whistle on the whole thing. So don't think this is just about fighting crime, for the love of God. Brandon, your thoughts on this?
I'm actually not super bent out of shape about it. Like again, the article already says that where I live, O'Fallon, and then like all of the other cities, they already share data. What's confusing to me is like I get the data and costs part, which is weird. Like, okay, they're like if someone commits a crime, now they're all sharing like damage to like a railway from a high-speed chase. I don't know. But I thought that's what a radio was. It was a real-time crime sharing data, facilitator. You just click a button and go, hey, like there's like a county radio for the police. You go, hey, stolen car on Highway 70 passing through St. Peters into O'Fallon. And then the cops jump in and join. Like, I don't know. This just seems like it already kind of exists in a way. They did just throw in the flock cameras in this article. So, like, I mean, I'm sure that's part of it. But, like, I guess just so the city has access to what other parts of the city are seeing on the cameras. Because I thought the deal was with the county I don't know. Like, the whole way the system interworks. I don't know. It's just like, to your point, yes, like they already, like the fact that these government entities are working trying to better their network on collecting mass data and sharing it with each other, it should scare people. But and I'm not trying to sound like the guy you were just describing in your last rant about, well, they already do it, so why care? It's just that this move seems very insignificant in like the larger scheme of what's going on, I guess. Like the flock cameras are the big deal. St. Charles City integrating with the other cops in the area to help fight crime or whatever they're doing. It just seems arbitrary, really.
Yeah, I would just like to see more. I would like to see more people that are paying attention to this and going, okay, because when you kind of start off the article like treating it almost like pre-crime. That that raises the red flags. That gets my hackles up. Like, what do you think, you're going to predict crime? Like, no, yes, of course you want to prevent crime. Of course you do. But you do not want to arbitrarily say someone's about to commit a crime and then go arrest them when they haven't committed a crime. Now, if you see somebody carrying a firearm and he's just pointing it at people and you think he's going to shoot somebody, that's like, you're looking at like, this guy's unhinged. If the guy hasn't produced a firearm and he hasn't even made it to the parking lot yet, but you saw him put the firearm in his car and drive to a shopping center, you can't go arrest him and go, well, you did carry a gun to a shopping center. And he's like, yeah, in my freaking car, like half the other parking lot. They're like, oh, but you seem extra spicy today, sir. So we're going to have to bring you in. And that's what they want. In the end, they want pre-crime. This has been talked about. This is like one of their wet dreams as far as crime prevention goes. And that scares the bejesus out of me, because we already have the data collection. And if somebody really wanted to nail you to the wall, they could just take several of your phone calls and text messages to stitch everything together and make you look guilty as sin. But yeah, when I see that, dude, my distrust of government is so thick that even when I read that, I'm like, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I feel like you guys are up to something no good. What was that? What's that map from Harry Potter where you had to like tap it? And it's like something about,
I solemnly swear I'm up to no good.
Yes. I feel like that's what they're doing. I solemnly swear I'm up to no good. And I'm like, well, at least you admit it. At least you admit it. So if you want to, we'll move on to another topic here. Brandon, I got this opinion piece from the Missouri Times. If you want to kind of, I know you have some thoughts on this.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about it a little before the show. Let me, can you see it well enough to read it from my screen, or?
I can.
Okay. I guess I could let you see the headline or the title of the article first.
It's still frozen on. I mean, it's still just displaying the opinion editorial part at the top on my screen. I have it pulled up. I can just read it from my side.
Okay, I don't know why to do that though, Bobby. Okay, well, I'll stop sharing and you read it from your screen, and I'll try putting it back up on my screen again.
So this is from J.D. Hayworth at the Missouri Times. Unaffordable prescription drugs are strangling family budgets. Here's a solution. The affordability crisis is hitting Missouri households. The affordability crisis hitting Missouri households isn't an accident. It's a business model. American households are making impossible choices. Groceries or insulin, rent or a blood pressure prescription, a child's asthma inhaler, or the electric bill. Those aren't hypotheticals. These daily realities are taking a toll on Missouri families. Over the past decade, the cost of life-saving medications has risen steadily, with U.S. prices far outpacing those in comparable countries and continuing to exceed inflation year after year. Unjustified price hikes are not a side effect of the pharmaceutical business model. They are the pharmaceutical business model. What's worse, while families continue to navigate affordability issues strangling their household budgets, big pharma executives are doing just fine. The 5 highest paid pharmaceutical CEOs in America took home a combined $157.8 million in 2025, which represents a staggering 24% increase from the prior year. Several of those executives saw their base salaries alone jump by more than $10 million in a single year, at the exact same moment that 40% of Americans reported going without prescription drugs they need simply because they can't afford them. Let that sink in. 2 out of 5 Americans skip medications over affordability. In Missouri, where working families are already stretch every dollar, those numbers are not abstractions. They are neighbors, grandparents, and coworkers. Critics of pharmaceutical accountability often argue that drug prices fund research and development into tomorrow's cures. It's a compelling story, but it's not what the numbers show. When first quarter 2026 earnings reports rolled in, the data revealed a pattern that should infuriate every Missouri taxpayer. Major drug makers are spending just as much on enriching shareholders through buybacks and dividends as they are on actual research and development. The R&D argument, Big Pharma's longstanding primary political shield, is collapsing under the weight of its own quarterly disclosures. In a political environment defined by division, pharmaceutical accountability has emerged as one of the few truly bipartisan issues left in American public life. New polling from the Pharmaceutical Reform Alliance shows that support for common sense reforms crosses every partisan line. Support for most favored nation drug pricing, requiring that Americans pay no more for medications than citizens of other wealthy countries, stands at 91% among Republicans, 70% among independents, and 64% among Democrats. This is the rare political movement where doing the right thing is the same as doing the popular thing. Missourians are watching to see who stands with Missouri families and who stands with Big Pharma. Because Big Pharma sets list price for every medication they sell, they are choosing to make those medications unaffordable for too many Americans. That is not a market failure. It is a deliberate corporate choice that demands a deliberate response. Missouri households need Senator Josh Hawley, Senator Eric Schmidt, and the entire Missouri congressional delegation to step up and stand with families rationing prescription drugs. The $157.8 million question isn't about pharmaceutical CEO pay. It's about whether Missouri representatives in Washington have the courage to answer it and deliver relief for Missourians' already stretched household budgets. John, your thoughts?
Jesus Christ, dude. These pieces really really tick me off. And it's simply because they do not, they leave out one big glaring thing. And that is the amount of money that comes from the pharmaceutical lobby to Republicans and Democrats. And that this person is asking for the government to step in and fix a problem that they helped create. He also left out the part where a bunch of us, like all of us, taxpayers, actually paid Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and some of these others to make the COVID vaccine, which they then doled out to boatloads of people. And we had to pay for that. He left that out. Why? Because it was a pandemic, and so we had to do it. Is that what it is? Is that his reasoning for not being upset at that? And that's my problem. They leave all this stuff out. Of course, medication and stuff is too high. I bet if you, I don't know, it'd be nice to just pull up the amount of regulations on that are put upon the pharmaceutical industry. I'm not a big pharma fan, right? I don't trust a lot of medications they put out because when you listen to the side effects, it sounds just as bad as the thing you're trying to combat. Okay. I'm not a big fan of that. Like, oh, you have gut problems. If you take this medicine, you might have explosive diarrhea. I hope that's not as bad as the gut problem you're facing right now. But I also don't like that somehow the pharmaceutical companies were able to get themselves immunity from any damages from vaccines. I'm also not a fan of that. So I'm not saying like these pharmaceutical companies are perfect, but there is another entity involved here that you're leaving out. And that is Congress. That is the US government. Play a big role in this. And then so you're wanting price controls, which ends up meaning shortages of medications or that money has to come from somewhere else. I see posts from people like Jess Piper who are commenting, people like, this lady is running for governor of this state and she's offering free childcare and free this and free that. And I just go in the comments and go, I don't think you know what free means. I don't think you understand what free means. You don't know what that word means. People think this crap falls out of the sky and that government can wave a wand and just fix the problem. It's like, there are too many examples out here of corruption but public-private partnerships and the corruption therein that causes pain and suffering, especially monetarily, to the American people. And I don't have enough time in a podcast to lay them all out for you. But we better start examining this. And instead of, again, Medicare, Medicaid, they're looking like they could go insolvent, right? And then you have the Part Bs and the Part As, the prescription plans, all this stuff. And those are all government programs that are supposed to make your medications more affordable, or they're supposed to do this and supposed to do that. What happened to that? It's not working very well. But yet let's have government do something else to combat the problem. I thought they were already fighting this. I thought they were already fixing this. And clearly they're not. So it makes my head hurt, Brandon. It really does. It makes my head hurt a lot.
Yeah, I hate when people try to make arguments, like just straight up heartstring arguments over like super complex issues. Like you're not gonna emotion your way into cheaper drug costs. You have to have like actual facts. Like so the CEOs of these pharmaceutical companies, they make a lot of money. 157 million. If you took every penny of that and then put it towards these prescription drugs, apparently that's not even coming close to covering the needs of all of the, of how big this problem really is. And so, like, sure, the government could be the answer. They could get rid. I mean, this is debatable here for sure, but you could get rid of patent law. So then even if somebody makes a drug, a competitor could come in the next day and make a cheaper off-brand, some competition there. If you're that worried about these pharmaceutical companies making all that money, get rid of their patents and let the free market actually compete. Allow in drugs from other countries. Because what you're doing, what you could be doing with this law that says like the most favored nations drug pricing, what if they just raise the drug prices across the globe? Then America's not then it's like, okay, yeah, we're not paying as much anymore. Everyone else is now just paying more. That could happen. You're talking about these super greedy pharmaceutical companies. And so, yeah, strip back all of their government protections. It definitely benefits the big corporations that you have to go through like 5 rounds of FDA testing. And then the FDA is like super regulatory in all these ways. And I'm not saying that people should be putting things in their body that aren't tested and aren't trusted. But the government being in the way and making all of these extra hurdles and hurdles and hurdles for like, you're not going to get a small time drug producer. They're all going to be like, you might have somebody working on a small time drug and then they're going to get bought out by Pfizer, or they're going to get bought out by Moderna or Gilead Sciences or any one of those. And then they're now just like the big conglomerate's going to own the drug manufacturing. And so the best way to do because they're going to need that funding to get through FDA testing. And so the best thing to do is just get rid of as many regulations as possible while also still putting in, I guess, a bare amount of protection for the people. But even that's debatable. Like, I'm sorry, but if you want to have actual cheap drug costs, sometimes people might have to have agency. Sometimes people might have to like make choices on which drugs they trust and don't trust, at the cost of having the government come in and make it so easy for big pharma to own the markets.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I have searched high and low from a clip that I remember seeing on Bill Maher. God, dude, I'm talking like 2008, 2012, somewhere in that area. And he was talking about on one of his monologues, the Democrats, this was pre Affordable Care Act. So this was probably the 2008 presidential run. It might have been 2004, but anyway, he's talking about Clinton and all these people had healthcare plans. But he's like, you know what was missing? They mentioned diet and exercise 3 times, but would mention pharmaceutical drugs. They'd mention this, that, and the other. So it was all about the fix that your doctor could give you, but it wasn't incentivizing eating better. Like even if it was like some type of like like in schools, they would say, hey, here's a much better, healthier way to eat, teaching kids how to eat healthier and not put 9, servings of grain at the top, to be realistic. But that didn't interest them. They were only talking about pharmaceutical prices, hospitals, all this, but nothing about not that I would trust government to necessarily tell me how to take care of myself, but if somebody came up with a somewhat logical dietary plan and said, this is what you should be actually, red meats high in protein, these kind of vegetables, these kind of fats, that stuff. This is what you need more of. The breads and everything else. Let's tone it down, right? Something that simple. But no, they won't. They weren't interested in telling you how to be healthy. The government, who says we're going to make healthcare affordable, also doesn't seemingly have much interest in making the populace healthy. Now, I could pull out my conspiracy brain and go, well, if you have a bunch of healthy people whose brains are working efficiently because they're eating better, might start looking around at government and going, Jesus Christ, did I just wake up out of a coma? What the hell's been happening? And if the majority of the population has healthy brains, healthy bodies, they literally may not fall for the kind of crap that they fall right now, because they're not in some sugar, high fructose corn syrup induced like brain fog all the time. And I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of not. If you have a country of people, where the healthcare costs are crippling the economy, that's going to have other repercussions besides high drug prices and high hospital stays. There's an epidemic of a lot of unhealthy people. And let's face it, folks, we've all seen people that are unhealthy, that eat unhealthy nonstop, and they don't function like we do, like people that will eat a little more healthy. And then you got the people that eat super healthy, and those are generally your people that are sharp as a tack, right? Because their body is functioning better. If you have a society of people who are basically taught to not eat good, then you have a bunch of unhealthy people whose brains don't function as well. I'm not saying they're dumb. I'm just saying they're not operating as efficiently as they could. It's much easier to lead a group of people down the wrong path that can't think straight. And so, maybe just maybe it's really not in the government's own self-interest to get people healthy. Maybe it's in their own self-interest to keep the lobbyists from the pharmaceutical companies keeping their campaign coffers full for them, and then helping them write regulations to keep their competition out of business. And stop looking at the government to try to make you healthy. That's all I'm saying.
I couldn't agree with your point more about how there is not nearly enough emphasis. Like, there is so much talk about how expensive healthcare is, and there is zero talk about how unhealthy America eats. And it's crazy how much pushback a guy like Rand Paul will get in the Senate when he's like, hey, maybe government, like, we shouldn't be taking the taxpayers from other people to support the unhealthy lifestyle, which will then cost us more with so we're paying for their unhealthy snacks, and then we're paying for the medical expenses from their choices from their unhealthy snacks and their unfit lifestyle. It's not like, so my mom, her work, I don't know if she still does this or not, but they used to have to like wear a pedometer and get 10,000 steps in. And then her health insurance company would put money into a health savings account for her if she hit her steps, every day of a certain period. And so, like, it's not even an outrageous concept to be like, okay, so if you're going to receive, like, if you're like considered obese by a doctor, it's not outrageous for if you're going to receive government benefits to be put on a step counter and to have like certain health requirements put in that aren't simply based on like, what's on a chart in front of you. Like, okay, are you walking? Like, are you walking around for 20 minutes a day? Are you intaking less than 6,000 calories? Like, are you doing the right things? Like that's not. It's funny how outrageous that is to some people. That like, hey, if you're going to be wasting my tax dollars, how about we just set some sort of guidelines on it? Because like I'm already conceding a lot by giving you the tax dollars. The least you could do is treat it with some darned respect.
And that's a really good point. Again, we're supposed to be so trusting of our government, and this is the kind of systems that they've built. And if you choose to live a healthier lifestyle, eat healthier, do all these things to try to keep yourself from being sick, what do you get out of it? You get government stealing money from you and incentivizing other people basically to be unhealthy. I mean, if you go around and government makes these promises about insurance and drug pricing and all this stuff, what incentive? There's no incentive there for people to get healthier. I mean, I guess there is, because they're like, hey, if I get healthy, I probably won't have all these health problems. But there is no push from the pharmaceutical lobby or Congress to incentivize healthy behavior. It is dangle a carrot in front of people and say, hey, look, we have a solution. And, if you have at least 3 brain cells, you should still be at a point where you can look at that and go, I do not feel good about this. I feel like there was some kind of wallet rapist waiting around the corner to jump me and steal more of my money. I'm not a fan. So yeah, it's just it's interesting, because again, I still to this day don't hear many candidates running for office, especially for Congress. If they talk about healthcare, it's we have to save, or we have to save these welfare programs, and that's folks. That's what they are. The Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, they're essentially welfare programs. They've never been sustainable from their inception, right? But that's the thing. That's a hot button issue, and they have to get out in front of the people, and the people are upset, and kind of rightfully so, because this is what they've been taught their whole lives. From the time they went to school, they learned about Social Security and like, hey, Social Security be there. And then now it's like, is it going to be there? Are you going to push back the retirement age? You're going to do these things. But yeah, people got to start demanding from their politicians to be like, dude, don't tell me about another government program. Don't tell me how you're going to fix this problem. Again, basing everything on intent and not about outcome, right? This is what we see all the time. But again, start looking at the outcome and stop looking to these politicians to solve the problem, because they don't. I wish I could play the George Carlin clip, what he says. They don't give an F about you, because they don't. They don't. And it is in their interest basically to keep you from not being healthy, because if people weren't having to buy so many prescription drugs, that means they wouldn't get so much lobby money in their campaign donations. And that would really hurt, because I mean, it's not like they don't already insider trade and do a bunch of other stuff. God forbid they lose money from some lobbyist of some big conglomeration. God forbid that they would lose some campaign dollars somewhere, even though, like I said, they got to the insider track on how to trade stocks and everything else. When you have the Bernie Sanders and the AOCs of the world who are really concerned about billionaires. It used to be millionaires and billionaires. Now it's just billionaires, because now they're millionaires. And it's funny how these people who hate the rich so much sure do act like them. All right, I want to go to this Amendment 4 thing, because this is one. Before I read this, I just want to say this. I have seen some people in the social medias who I can agree with on a lot of things. And they are just pushing people to vote yes on Amendment 4 like crazy. And I just want everyone to be aware. If you didn't hear the episode where Tom, or our last visit from Tom March, our monthly visit, if you didn't listen to that, you can go back and listen to it, or you can listen to what words are getting ready to pass through my lips. Amendment 4, they're telling you, they're scaring you with, we have to do this to keep the big money out of state big money interests from amending our Constitution. And this is the people who want you to vote yes. What they're not telling you is the threshold for the people who want to pass some kind of initiative petition. That threshold to get, let's say Brandon and I started a campaign for an initiative petition to make full autos legal in the state of Missouri. No more. We're gonna keep full autos out of the hands of people. Let's just say that, well, because that's my dream. Okay, so let's say if we got enough signatures, we get it on the ballot. If you went with Amendment 4, it would be much harder to get something like that done than if the legislative body did it. It's much easier to get it done. So the question you need to ask yourself, and I mean, be really honest with yourself right now when you ask this question. When you look in the mirror and you say, whatever my name is, do I trust the legislative body more than I trust myself and the people around me? If that answer is yes, go to a facility and get your brain checked. If that answer is no, I do not, my suggestion to you, now you vote however you want. My suggestion to you is that you vote no on Amendment 4. Let me pull up this article, though. And let's see. Because, again, Brandon brought this up before the show. And I think he's right. I think they took this same kind of language and just slapped a different headline on it. So this is from June 18th. This is also from didn't Jason Hancock have a different one? No, who was the last dude? That was some other schmuck that wrote that. But anyway, so Missouri voters passed a sales tax cap. Under Amendment 4, it would have failed. Again, this is from Jason Hancock at the Missouri Independent, June 18th of this year. Missouri voters approved a constitutional amendment in 2016 barring state and local governments from imposing new sales tax on most services, a measure its backers pitched as protection against future taxes on haircuts, car repairs, childcare, and other everyday expenses. It passed with nearly 57% of the vote. Under a proposal on the August 4th ballot, that wouldn't have been enough. That proposal, Amendment 4, would require citizen-led constitutional amendments to win not only a statewide majority, but also a majority in each of Missouri's 8 congressional districts. That means an amendment could carry the state, win 7 of 8 districts, and still fail if voters in a single district rejected it. The math can be stark. Analysis last year by the Independent found that based on 2024 turnout, a bare majority in the lowest turnout congressional district, about 156,000 voters, could sink a proposal that won everywhere else in the state. That is about 5.3 of the roughly 2.96 million Missourians who cast ballots in the 2024 governor's race. And that's exactly what would have happened to the 2016 tax amendment, according to an analysis by the Independent of certified election returns and county precinct results. The measure won by more than 375,000 votes statewide, but it lost the first congressional district anchored in St. Louis and the northern suburbs of St. Louis County by roughly 31,500 votes. Under Amendment 4, that single district would have blocked a business-backed tax cap approved by a clear majority of Missouri voters. The example complicates the political story around the proposal, which has been largely framed as a Republican response to recent citizen initiatives on Medicaid, marijuana, sports betting, and abortion rights, campaigns backed by coalitions often at odds with the GOP-controlled legislature. The 2016 tax amendment was not one of them. It was bankrolled by the Missouri Association of Realtors, and that should make you want to vomit hearing that that lobbying a group of people there. Endorsed by business and professional groups and faced no organized opposition, yet under the district by district rule, it would have never taken effect. A review of certified returns by the independent found Amendment 4 would have blocked every citizen-led constitutional amendment Missouri voters have approved since 2020. Medicaid expansion, recreational marijuana, sports betting, and abortion rights, each passed statewide. None carried all 8 districts based on the congressional map in place where they appeared on the ballot. In November 2016, Missourians approved an amendment barring new state or local sales tax on services not already taxed as of January 1st, 2015. But in the first district, St. Louis voted it down 59 to 41%, casting 51,142 votes in favor and 73,020 against, according to the City Board of Election Commissioners. In the portion of St. Louis County inside the district, voters also rejected it, giving it about 47% support. County precinct returns show. Combined, the district cast 136,375 votes for the amendment and 167,875 against. Now, I'm just going to stop right there for a minute. So they don't like, let me do this real quick here. Let me pull this up. They don't like the fact, again, I'm not a fan of Amendment 4 either. But this is a very one-sided column. Again, Brandon, I believe you said this before the show that, man, for a website and an art and a publication called the Missouri Independent, it sure leans to the left. Like when you pick up the paper, your left hand sinks. Like the left side of the paper is weighs more than the right side of the newspaper, if this was a actual printed publication. But I do know when I go to the site, my screen tilts to the left every time I go there. I don't know what the deal is, but it seems to be slanting to the left a little bit. But anyway, they're not talking about the fact that Amendment 3, recreational marijuana, 16 counties out of 80-something counties in Missouri. It might be more than that. I don't remember. But 16 counties carried that. Does that sound like the majority of the people? I mean, there was enough population in those 16 counties to carry that amendment and have it put into the Constitution. That's not fair either. And so they're leaving that out. They're just saying, see, this one county would have screwed it all up. I'm sorry to hurt your precious little feelings, but the Constitution of Missouri is too easy to amend. We must make it harder to amend. Brandon, I'm gonna give you the floor here for a couple minutes. Give me your thoughts so far, and I'll finish up my thoughts here. But I want to give you a chance.
Well, what annoys me about, I guess one of the premises of the article is that all of these ballot initiatives are all like grassroots movements. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. We've talked about it before. You have to pay, in order to get enough signatures, you have to pay people to get the signatures. And when you're talking about sports betting, you're talking about marijuana legalization, you're talking about Medicaid expansion and abortion. You're talking about major big money conglomerates paying for those people to go out and collect signatures. Those are the big ones. And like you're saying, even the 2016 tax amendment that was passed, that was funded by the Missouri Association of Realtors. And in fairness, they're probably just lobbying it because they don't want to they don't want to add any sales tax whenever they sell houses. And so, sure, yeah, that's understandable. But that's not to say that it's not one of the biggest lobbying groups in Missouri, and that it's not a large conglomerate, big interest movement. It's none of these, either something moves through the Missouri House because it's got lobbyist backing, or it gets through with initiative petition because of lobbyist and big money backing. It's not like the grassroots versus the big controlling government. It's the government controlled by the conglomerates versus the conglomerates curtailing them. And so I don't know, that part just annoys me. And then also to your point, like there's a reason that we have a Senate in both the Missouri House and in the US House of Representatives. It's because we are not a straight up democracy. You not only have to win, like you can't just win a straight 51% of a vote every time and pass new laws like crazy. That's not how it works. Our Constitution is not up for a 51% vote. It's if that's why you need not just like one type of person to vote for it. You need a wide range. So like in the article it says it passed, like I don't know if we covered it or not. Oh yeah, it's at the very top of the article. It talks about the 2016 amendment passing with 57% of the vote. That means 43% of the people opposed it, which I understand is not a majority, and to some people that's the end all say all. That's the end of the discussion. A majority of people think we should have something. You're in the minority. You're a loser. Go home. But 43% of the people is not a number of the people to scoff at. And so like, yeah, I think like people forget that we are a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. You don't want 51% of the people raising the taxes to 95% on the top 20% of earners simply because they can, simply because they had the numbers to vote it through. And so it's the art again, but to your point, where you started, this is about amending the Constitution. And so, yes, it needs to be harder to amend the Constitution, both from initiative petition process and from our legislature. Like there needs to be a much smaller Constitution, way more. We need to bring the Constitution back to being a framework for government and not just a giant book of statutes.
Yeah. It again, and here's the thing, folks, I get it. With recreational marijuana, our legislative body could have had the intestinal fortitude and just passed a bill saying recreational marijuana is a thing now. They could have done that. The problem is when it comes to certain things, the legislative body hasn't had a spine. So it goes to the people. And so because they've not wanted to get with the times, maybe put it that way. What ends up happening is out of state money came in and we got Amendment 3. And then, of course, they went after all the hemp products and said, no, if you're going to buy these types of things, you have to go to the dispensaries that bankrolled the A3 initiative petition process. So that's what we got out of that. And it went to the Constitution instead of just the revised statutes of Missouri. And knowing that also when you do that, once it gets in the Constitution, it's not coming out. It's not coming back out. It is nigh impossible to get that removed. You would have to have another initiative petition to say, we want to remove this from the Missouri Constitution. Well, as it stands now, if it got voted in, it's not going to get voted back out. And so these things are just stuck in there. Do we need to make it harder to amend the Constitution? Yes. But we need two different processes here. Do we need one for the legislative body who are seemingly telling you that they know better than you, so they should have an easier process than we do, and they want to blame it all on outside money? And I just don't buy that. It's not always outside money. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But they're using that scare tactic to get you to vote for this. Do not fall for their nonsense. Again, the most important thing is that there are two levels in this ballot initiative. The legislative body is being held, seemingly they're saying we're more intelligent than you and we know better. So we're going to stay at what we already pretty much have to do now. Maybe a little more difficult. Well, it's a little more difficult, but then you guys really have to do your homework if you want to amend the Constitution. Now, there's a lot of people out there who don't understand the Constitution, and I don't necessarily want them amending it. I also don't trust 99% of the legislative body to come up with a good amendment to put in the Constitution either that would be placed on the ballot. So it's it's not a win-win. It's a lose-lose. And it's unfortunate. But again, that's why I have Tom Martz on this show once a month. We want people to be more educated on the state constitution. We want them to have a better understanding of the Constitution, what it says government's role is. And we also want the legislative body, because they swear an oath to that document, to follow it. So the people, we as the people, we have a lot of homework to do. We've got our work cut out for us, trying to get the masses educated on what government's role is, how our legislative body and the government and the governor and the Supreme, all these idiots in black robes in the state, how they need to act. We have our work cut out for us. We have to keep educating people. But again, stop looking to the government to solve your problems, because that's not working. Let me read on a little bit more. Let's see. That finding is now part of the campaign against Amendment 4, Missourians for Fair Governance, one of 4 committees formed to oppose it. Reported a $2 million contribution from the Missouri Association of Realtors last week. Scott Charton, a spokesman for Missourians for Fair Governance, who also represents the realtors, said the 2016 measure shows voters have used the initiative process to limit taxes when politicians would not. The 2016 Taxpayer Protection Amendment, barring sales tax on everyday services, was embraced by a majority of Missouri voters, and over the last decade, it has spared our citizens from millions of dollars in sales tax on services such as healthcare, childcare, car repairs, and haircuts. Amendment 4 would apply only to amendments proposed by initiative petition. Those the legislature places on the ballot would still pass by simple statewide majority. Charton calls that asymmetry evidence the measure is designed to strip voters of their power to take actions when politicians refuse to act. The Missouri Farm Bureau, that's another fine organization, one of the state's most influential agricultural groups, has endorsed Amendment 4 and is urging its members to vote yes. Its president, Garrett Hawkins, said the organization's members have pushed to overhaul the initiative process since the 1980s, arguing constitutional change has come to reflect money concentrated in cities rather than consensus across the state. Now, that's real fine coming from organizations who don't want to see the personal property tax eliminated. So they can both stuff it in their pipe and smoke it for all I care, because one says, please don't, and the other one says, please do. Neither one of these organizations are trustworthy. People who belong to the Farm Bureau need to wise up and understand that those folks don't want to see the personal property tax eliminated in the state. Neither does the Realtors Association. They don't want to see personal property taxes eliminated either. So even though one of them is right on this issue and the other one is wrong, please don't take that as one's trustworthy because they're backing it and the other one's saying no, or vice versa. Don't do your homework on these folks. They do not have your best interests at heart most of the time.
Can you explain to me why the Farm Bureau would oppose the elimination of property tax? Wouldn't that be like most of the, do they already just not pay it or what?
They just, anytime it's been proposed, my understanding, Catherine Dreyer, who followed this, said that, like, the Missouri Realtors Association did not want personal property taxes go away. The Missouri Farm Bureau was against it. Now, you would think, because generally the Missouri Farm Bureau, its members are family farmers. So you would think they would want to see personal property tax eliminated because it would help out the small farmers. And it's quite the opposite. I do not understand why.
That's crazy. The only thing I could think is that it's actually in the interest of big farmers who make a ton of money to have more property tax, because then you're pricing out small farmers.
That's probably what it is, Brandon.
That's my running theory right now, because why else would the Farm Bureau Why, if you owned a farm, which like most of your business is just land, why would you want to pay property tax on all your acres?
I don't
So
know.
it would have to be because you want to you want to price out smaller farms. That's the only thing I could think.
And you're probably absolutely right. I would say if you're not completely right, you're probably um pretty close. But yeah, I remember Catherine Dreyer discussing um that before that they were doing that. They were like, "Oh yeah, let's let's and again, the Missouri Realtors Association, you would think but like, hey, we'll sell more houses if people aren't having to pay personal property tax on their house. Yeah. Nope.
I wonder if they think that they'll have to increase like the only thing I could think for the Realtors Association is that if you eliminate property tax, then you have to increase sales tax, which then could cost them some money.
Yeah, I
I
don't
guess.
know.
I don't know.
They have bankrolled a lot of awful things, and they bankroll an awful lot or a lot of awful Republican candidates. Again, Catherine, her and Kirby were on my show. That's been a couple years. They took us right to the MEC website and showed us kind of how to navigate through it. I actually need to go back and watch it so I can learn some more. But yeah, it's crazy. The Farm Bureau is untrustworthy. They're terrible. Let's see. These significant measures that ultimately are enshrined in the Constitution that have tremendous societal and budgetary implications don't start in rural communities. We're left out of the conversation until we start seeing multi-million-dollar ad campaigns on TV or until we walk into the ballot box or take a position on them. Told that the 2016 tax cap had lost the first district, Hawkins said the example only proved his point. Clearly, those who were working on that measure did not get a consensus in all areas of the state. So again, it's very interesting that they talk about this, not looking at the rural people. Again, you seemingly don't back the removal of the personal property tax, so you want to give me a lecture on, oh, they're leaving out rural communities. Come on, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Also, I think that they really like the tax credits for big ag. I can see them being like, well, if the legislature wants to push something for farmers and to put it on the ballot, and we get enough and we get the the majority to vote it in because they've got their hands in all in the Republican Party as well. Maybe they see a benefit to more tax credits or something with farmers, something they can work with. Who knows? So I'm not gonna I'm just gonna see. Yeah, it says Ohio voters in 2023 rejected a proposal to make constitutional amendments harder to pass months before approving an abortion rights measure. Arkansas, Idaho, and Florida have each moved to constrain their initiative processes with mixed results in court. Well, and then again, if you don't have judges that know the Constitution, what good is that going to do you? This thing is, God, every time we talk about this, about legislation or constitutional amendments or the courts, sometimes, I don't know about you, Brandon, but sometimes I feel like we're totally screwed right now. Like any of these entities, it just seems like you're headed for a freaking train wreck. I don't know. It's disappointing.
This to me, again, I just feel like this amendment in particular feels like the legislature going after the lobbyists for going around them way more than it's about
Yeah.
protecting the people and protecting the Constitution. Feels like that's second. What they're mad about is they're like, oh, wait, these lobbyists, they can just pay petitioners instead of paying us. And they're mad about it. So they're like, okay, we'll change that. We'll make it harder for initiative petition processes. But still the same statewide majority for when we want to do it. But if you want to go around us, we're going to make this a lot harder. So it seems like big money fighting with their tools more than more than it's really going to affect me. It is just annoying though, how when you have things that are just all about personal freedom, like marijuana and sports gambling, how hard that is for a Republican controlled legislature to just push through without a ton of regulation and taxes. It's like it always gets held up because too many people want a piece of the pie. And it's just, like it does make me want to start a petition to legalize these things, but just I don't have the resources to do it without adding a bunch of taxes and favoring a bunch of giant corporations. And so, yeah, like I said, either way, with the initiative petition process, the average person looking for liberty is still up a creek without a paddle. So,
yeah, and again, I know we brought this up a couple weeks ago, I'm pretty sure. Clean Missouri. This kind of all stems to me. This is a consequence of Clean Missouri, because it was like, we're going to limit campaign donations. And all they did was change it from coming directly from people, moving it to PACs. Lobbyists donate large amounts of money to the PACs, fund the campaigns, and then they've captured these people that they've funded well. So you get that, and then that leads to something like this, where they're like, oh, that's fine, because we want, the lobbyists, they also want to amend the Constitution for certain things, but they'll do it through the legislative body, and the legislative body is trying to make it so that it's easier for them to do it over the people that they're supposed to represent, that elect them to office, which is a fine how do you do. But it's just amazing how one of these things seems linked to something else and something else and something else as we go through the years. That again, a couple years ago, Missouri First had a really great bill for initiative petition. Now, it didn't separate the people from the legislative body. It said, this is how we would like to make it, to amend the Constitution. It was a pretty, nothing's ever perfect, but it was really good. And there were temper tantrums thrown in the Senate, and it would just get laid over, or they would just end session early that day, as some Senate pro tem or something, majority floor leader would throw a hissy fit, and then boom, it's all over. And it just didn't go anywhere. And then so they do things like that. And then abortion got put in an amendment. Other things got an amendment. And then the Republicans, they want to throw a hissy fit. And then they want to come in and go, we'll save you guys. We'll do this, and we've got this figured out. We'll keep the outside money from coming in and amending our Constitution. Also, we're way cooler than you guys are, so we'll make it the same for ourselves as it is right now. And I think they knew it was coming. I think they just killed a really good piece of legislation, and they knew they were going to get an outcry from people. So then they come up with this dumpster fire. And again, I see a lot of people on both sides of the political aisle saying this is not good. But I am seeing a lot of so-called Republicans or conservatives out there that are championing this. And it makes me wonder about what kind of critical thinking skills they have. Because again, there's a lot of subjects and a lot of topics that I generally see eye to eye with these people on. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with you on that. But this year, between Amendment 5 and Amendment 4, the people that I would generally, and Amendment 3, the abortion thing, right? People I would generally agree with, I'm like, what are you all doing? They are just they are falling into the same thing seemingly of, they're not name calling per se, but they're just falling in line with the Republican Party, and we have to get these things done. Like what's going to happen if it doesn't happen? You guys are just going to have something else to throw out to the public every election cycle at the beginning of every legislative session, telling us your priorities that you won't get done unless there's enough lobbyist money to help you get it done. But the things that the people want generally, that are good for the people, that are liberty oriented, you have no interest in that generally. You have no interest in that at all. And I'm talking about the lobbyists, and I'm talking about the people high up in the Republican Party. I am disappointed to see people, again, that I'm generally aligned with on a lot of things, who are backing these amendments. Like, if they don't, then the Democrats are going to hold the supermajority next election, and that's just not going to happen. So I wonder where all this pressure is coming from, and people who are generally able to critically think a little bit more are just falling in line. And it's like they're like acting like this is as good as it's going to get, and we'll get this done, and then we can improve on it as time goes on. No, you won't, because it'll be amended in the Constitution. There is no perfecting it later on. You're putting all these things, or you're changing statutes, or you're doing whatever. No one's going to come in and improve this later. It's going to stay the same, and you guys are all going to high-five each other and act like you saved the people, and you did nothing. You did nothing really productive. You just bent the knee to groups like the Missouri Farm Bureau or the Realtors Association or a number of other lobbyist organizations, and yeah, your campaign coffers stay funded, and we keep getting screwed. I guess hooray for you guys. I don't know. Brandon, we got 10 minutes left. Your parting thoughts, sir.
Yeah, no, what is surprising me a little bit, and I'm not trying to start any more beef. I'm not trying to fight with nobody, because like you said, there's probably a lot of things we agree on.
Yeah.
But I am shocked by how many people within the Missouri Freedom Initiative, and not Freedom Initiative, I'm sorry. How many people inside of the Freedom Caucus in Missouri? Because typically you'll see like the worst part of the Republican legislature push something, and then you'll have the Freedom Caucus occasionally will push back on it. But Amendment 4 and Amendment 5 are bad, and these guys, it's not that they like have an opinion on it that we disagree with. They will not have a good faith conversation about it. And I'm not saying that all of their detractors are here to have a good faith conversation, but they'll highlight what the detractors, like the crazy people, are saying about them online. And Nick Shore did. He posted a big thing about the death threats and the crazy stuff that some of these leftists are saying to him on X. And then you've got some people on the right who they're not there to have the conversation either. They're kind of just lobbing the insults. But then Nick will just turn that and be like, see, anyone who opposes this is just a loony bin sucker loser who lives at home with mom. And he won't even have like again, people press him. People press the Freedom Caucus on like, okay, so Amendment 5, where are the safeguards? Like, what's the plan? And then when they don't have a plan, they just name call. And then so it's just too dumb. It's the dumb constituents name calling with the dumb politicians. And you like the same thing with Amendment 4. Like they're hardcore on Amendment 4, but like they will not. They're like, okay, so the state legislature can push a constitutional amendment with 50%, but the people have to have a 50% in all 8 congressional districts threshold. Make that make sense. Oh, you must be a leftist. Oh, you must be one of those crazy Democrats because you have questions and opposition to something I want to do. And so, yeah, I kind of want to just draw back to what Nate Thurston said on our show previous Thursday, was just like, let's have good faith conversations. Everybody, like, don't go online just trying to make a name for yourself all the time, because there's the one senator who just is out. Like, it seems like he's just, especially lately, just all about just trying to build a name for himself. Like, he goes on his podcast and he talks about, you got to watch out for fake Republicans. You got to, he's like, even the Freedom Caucus in Missouri is getting a little Mark Levine on us with they're just like, well, if you don't support what I support, you must be one of the Nazi Democrats. And it's like, okay, no, like all right, we'll draw back some of our, more name calling criticism. And then you start providing actual answers to our real questions from real conservative Missourians. How about that?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and that's the thing. I think people think that, I just want to argue with people. I don't. I want to understand why some people feel the way they do. I want a good explanation why, and I can't get it from a lot of people. I get the name calling, and if you're getting that from senators in your state, why reelect these people? Why reelect them? If you go online and see them again with basically the mean girl attitude and just want to name call or put stupid gifs up or whatever, if that's all you're getting as a response when someone challenges their opinion, they don't deserve to stay in office. If that shows, to me, it shows a really bad lack of intelligence. They don't have they don't seem to have the facts to back up their case. They don't want to make their case. And again, folks, there are too many people that cheerlead this trolling of politicians. Now, I get sometimes somebody's trying to actually do the right thing and people come at him and they're like, like Thomas Massey's really good at this. Like he'll post a tweet or something and he'll roast somebody. But he has facts to back his up. Nick Schroer doesn't have any facts. He's got stupid trolling things that he does. Whoop-de freaking do. I know a lot of people that are way better trollers than that guy is. Doesn't impress me at all. What it would impress me is if you could lay out a case. That's what I want. And that's the thing. You can have a differing opinion with someone. I've had differing opinions and had a long enough conversation where I started questioning what I thought I knew. And then that just led to more discovery. What is wrong with that?
Well, I don't want to pat ourselves too hard on the back here, but we had Bryant Wolfen on the show when this was still just HJR 173, 174. He was in support of them. We all had the very open conversation of like me, you, and I don't know if Tom was on that show or not, but we were just like, well, we disagree. You were like, okay, we've heard you. You made the case, and it was a logical argument. He was like, well, there's technically protections in here. And then I'm not saying that like our one conversation was like a big changer for him, but then when it came back from the Senate, he voted no on it.
Yeah, he didn't like it the way they amended it, and he's like, nope, don't like it anymore. And he shut it down because I asked him. He's like, they turned it into a nightmare, and I don't like it anymore. So he changed it. He's like, I'm not comfortable with this anymore.
Yeah, and so like that's how you have like the honest conversation. Like we weren't name calling Bryant, and he wasn't name calling us. He laid out his argument. We laid out our arguments against it, and there was a relative understanding on why we didn't support it and why he thought it was necessary to support it. And at the end of the day, when it came back, he didn't support it. And I'm not exactly sure what changes they made. I know they extended it from 3 years to 5 years and other things, but again, like we were saying, that's how you have the civil conversation with the politician. I wish more politicians would go on local podcasts. That would be that would be another way to solve it too.
Yeah, I don't remember if I bookmarked it or not. I did. This is only 42 seconds long. Let me play this real quick. This is Camelia Peterson on Scott Vaughn's show, not doing a very good job of telling people why they should vote for Amendment 5. So let me pull this up very quickly and let me play this video for you. Let me pause this, back it up. I'll just play the audio real quick.
Give me the elevator pitch on why Amendment 5 is the move.
Yes, I think that this is the biggest thing that we can do to make a better Missouri for the future of our kids. I think we'll see benefits from it and growth from it and benefits within, 15 years, maybe less, probably, no, not with like probably way less.
I'll just leave that there. 15 years? Not 15 years. Like way less, like maybe a year. And so there was even a supporter out there. It's somebody's LA in the Senate, and he's like, couldn't have found better spokesman for this. And it's like, because he's all like, oh, if you don't support Amendment 5, you're a piece of crap. She gets on there like 15 years. Oh, wait. Oops. Yeah. Oops, you did it again, lady. All right, folks. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Again, to those of you who watch on the interwebs or listen by podcast or at molibertyradio.us, we greatly appreciate your continued viewership. Yes, go ahead real quick, Brandon.
I wanted to throw a shout out to the guy named Josh
yes,
who subscribed on Spreaker.
Yes,
we much appreciate you, sir.
I have to tell you this real quick. I may cut the audio off at an hour and a half for my friends at but I'll just anyway, I'll go on about this after the recording, but a good day to you all, and we'll be right back here next Tuesday evening at 6:30 for another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. So anyway, thank you, Brandon. Yeah, so I set up a thing on Spreaker. If you don't know what Spreaker is where we host. That is our podcast hosting site. Spreaker is amazing, and this is not a paid endorsement. This is personal experience. Spreaker has yet to let me down for the last few years that I've owned. I've never had an outage. I've never had a problem uploading. I've never had a problem with the episode getting spread to wherever. It's seamless. It's fantastic. And for what I pay for 500 hours of storage, like $20 a month, like 500 hours of storage that's years of episodes for us because we only do one a week. Spreaker's amazing. I completely forgot that I set up a supporter section on Spreaker. So if you happen to listen to this in podcast mode, I set it up at $2 a month. $2 a month. Now, if you choose to subscribe there and pay the $2 a month, it also let me enable that if you subscribe through Spreaker and you support us with $2 a month, it cuts off all the ads. And I'm absolutely fine. So if you're listening and you're like, God, geez, John, the ads, I get it. If you pay the $2 a month, you don't have any ads. You get an ad-free podcast episode. So if you choose to support us, go to Spreaker, look for the Missouri Liberty Report, and you should see a supporters tab there. And you can click on that and say, yeah, I'll give you $2 a month. And then if you just go to Spreaker, use the Spreaker app or whatever, and use that to listen to the episode, you will get no ads. And again, a big shout out to Josh Jones. I wish I would have put that in the beginning of the episode, and I had a brain fart. But yeah, big shout out to Josh Jones, our first supporter of the Missouri Liberty Report Spreaker support page. And we greatly appreciate that. And I have to say, at some point, folks, I've got to work on getting a website built for this podcast. And then I can put those links to the supporter page and whatever on there. And if so, that way people can find us. I don't want to build an overly complicated website. I would like a landing page, a way to contact us, and things like that. Nothing crazy like multiple like pages. I would like to have a landing page and then a list of all the shows that Brandon and I like to listen to that we think you should listen to if you don't already, shows that we would support, and a way to reach us via email. And then, like I said, a link to the Spreaker support thing page. So that's something else I have to work on. Hopefully at some point I can get that worked out and get a website. Everything is WordPress now, and WordPress makes my head hurt. I freaking hate WordPress, but everything's going to WordPress, and it's really simple. Not for this old fuddy-duddy, it's not. I don't know. I don't know if Brandon's better at it than me, but I suck at WordPress.
So I made my campaign website, bcd4mo.com, with WordPress. It was
Oh.
so I used Wix before, which is drag and drop, and like if you've got the extra money, so worth it. But with the
Okay.
discounted rate, it's like $150 a year for Wix, and I used a site called Bluehost, which is
Yep.
hosts WordPress for $50 a year. So I saved myself $100. I probably spent about 12 hours building that website, and it is so basic and simple. But if you know WordPress or can learn WordPress, like I wish I would have just used Wix and went to work on a Saturday versus spending all that time and effort learning how to use WordPress. But now I have a very novice bit of WordPress, so we might be able to cook up something.
Absolutely. That would be great because we do need a site for the page. Again, just for a way to people to contact us, things like that. It's just one other part of the equation of having a podcast that I just haven't done. So I need to try to work on that as well. All right, folks, that's going to do it. Thanks for, again, I enjoyed my week off, but I was chomping at the bit to get back on here tonight and do a show because we had a lot of good things to talk about and a lot of again I'm trying to be nicer and get people to our side of the argument on why we feel the way that we do. And it's really hard for me sometimes not to get on here and just call people retarded, like in groups, large groups. And I'm trying to fix that. So hopefully we can have that dialect. We can have that dialect with people and get them to understand that government doesn't have to be in every facet of their life and steal all their money and rob them of their wealth and prosperity. Something we all got to work on, right? So thanks again, everybody. And we'll see you next week right here